So, we still do not know how Joe Burrow's contract is structured. It's been a day, and the information still has not been released. What we do know, of course, is it's a 7-year contract overall wise, but he did sign a 5-year extension for $275 million with $219 guaranteed. Of course, over that technical 7 years, it will be 316. The reason why it's 7 years is because it's an extension, so his current contract has to run out, and then he does get a new contract. Now, what we do know about the contract is that it won't actually start affecting us until 2 years from now, because again, he does work out his last part of his contract, which is 11.6 million this year and 29 million fully guaranteed next year. So his contract, cap hit won't really be bad probably until 3 years from now. Now, Joe Burrow's dad commented on his contract and gave a really positive look on keeping players like T. Higgins, keeping players like Jamar Chase, etc. Again, like I said, we don't know the structure yet, but his dad might have just revealed a little something here. He said, "We all know that Joe wants his team around him to be compensated," Jimmy Burrow said, according to Jeff Hobson of Bengals.com. "He loves those guys, loves his teammates. He knows the whole reason he is able to get a contract like this is because of his teammates and coaches. He'll be the first to tell you that." Again, we don't know exactly what this contract entitles, right? We've talked about many times how this contract could be backloaded, meaning that he could, for the first, let's say, for example, 3 years, not make much money at all. And then the rest of the contract is really team friendly for him, right? It's very possible that ends up becoming the case. Or, again, very possible that they're going to put a lot of the money for him in the signing bonus. So it's less of a cap hit during his whole contract, and it's also less, impact toward other players. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, if he did get a fully loaded contract with 55 a year and he just absolutely went off with this contract, there's 0% chance that we're going to be able to keep T. Higgins, right? In that context, right? But based on what he said of he's confident we're going to be able to keep everyone and he loves playing with them, it made it sound like and seem like at least that we're going to be able to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And based on what his dad says here, he's kind of making that very clear that however this contract is structured, according to his dad, it's going to be structured in a way that compensates the guys around him. And again, we already heard Adam Schefter come out and say how, the Bengals are prioritizing right now Jamar Chase and T. Higgins after this contract. They're trying to work out a contract with those two guys. So it's very clear if they were, for example, thinking, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to keep T, come on now, then that's what Adam would not have tweeted that. Adam would not have came out and said that. Adam Schefter doesn't say things based on the fact of he wants to create news. He says stuff because he gets leaked news. People, sources around him, sources in Cincinnati Bengals, coaching area staff, I say higher ups, they tell him information. Or they don't tell him information, but they tell other people information and it gets leaked to Adam. So again, there are a lot of sources here saying that they're working on a contract extension with, T and with Chase. And we, again, do not know how this contract's structured. I wish they would release it so we could see how it's structured, so we can kind of break down this channel to say, okay, how could Joe, be helping out getting these other guys? But based on his dad's comments and Adam's comments, it very much seems like this contract is either backloaded or very much pushed in toward a signing bonus. Now, you might say, well, a signing bonus is still going to add money to the cap. It doesn't change anything. Well, we talked about yesterday about voidable years, which if you don't know what voidable years are, I'm going to give you a generalized breakdown of them. Let me actually bring up Joe Burrow's. I can't bring up his actual contract, but what I can bring up is this, which is overthecap.com. So, pretty much a generalized look of avoidable years. Let me do this. So let's say he has 2 years left, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in theory, if we were to do this $55 million contract, right? Let's say, for example, so it's what, 219 guaranteed. Let's say he did have, I don't know, theoretically speaking, Lamar Jackson just got a $72.5 million signing bonus. I'm going to guess that Joe gets like 80 million, or if they want to put a lot of money in the signing bonus, it's very possible he could get something like 110 million. So 110 million, which means, again, 110 of that 275 is signing bonus, which is a lot, right? Usually you don't get that. Usually you get the actual, money that goes toward the contract to his salary, right? Because again, at the end of the day, the idea with the team is if he does get hurt, you don't want to put all that money guaranteed toward the player. Because again, you're tying up a lot for the player. With Joe, you're not really thinking about that if you're the Bengals here, right? So if we put 55 million, right, minus, let's see, 21,170. Oh wait, my bad. 55 million minus 23,170. 170. Okay, there we go. This is gonna be around 31.83, and I'm just putting in the contract here, guys. One sec. So I'm just putting in what the contract would be in the end if this was, again, like I said, if this was, I would say no. What am I doing? Okay, so let's do 270, right? We're gonna minus that 110 signing bonus. I'm stupid. Okay, that's 160. So per year, then it would be a signing bonus. I'm sorry, it'd be a salary of 32 mil a year. So he'd be making around 32 a year if the signing bonus was there. So 32 a year. Okay, gonna put in theory here, 32 a year. Now, how is this structured? Well, first off, let's talk about voidable years. So voidable years are in theory fake years. That's what, pretty much the idea of voidable years are. You can have unlimited voidable years. The point of voidable years is that the money just gets pushed toward the future and doesn't impact you right now. So pretty much voidable years are years added to the end of the contract. These years are not years the player is technically getting paid for playing. These are years that the player is no longer on the team. So, for example, if you added 5 voidable years, and let me go ahead and do that with this. Now, sadly, with overcap.com, they don't actually let you be able to, add voidable years and put the money correctly. I hope they fix this in the future, because how we would do it in real life is you can't do it on this website. So, for example, in real life, what I would do here is I would take the 110 million, right? And then what I would do is I would push this salary cap down to split up, and I did 3 years, but you would probably do 5 or 6 years for this. You would split up this money over the 5 years of the 110 million. So what that would do is it would take away the 110 million completely from his salary cap hit. So again, it would not impact us right now. It would just impact us in the future. So you could take away 110 from right now and not impact us now. Now, why? Why don't every team do that? Well, the problem with doing that is that once the void year hits, you owe that player all of that money guaranteed right away. So let's say with theory, right, we would to put 27 in void year 1, 22 in void year 2, 22 in void year 3, 22 in year void 4, and then 5 would be 22 million. The problem with doing that is that over the period of time, that 5 years, you are guaranteed you have to give him all that money. And the problem with that is, you probably already guessed it, is that now, let's say the guy goes out there, right, and, let's say he gets a new contract. Joe gets a new contract, but he probably will after 2030, in all honesty. Let's say he gets a new contract. That just adds on to his current salary cap or whatever his new contract is. So if he gets a new contract in 2030, and that new contract is, 5-6 year contract, and he's making, 40 million a year, you have to pay him the guaranteed 27 million a year. And it just adds on to a salary cap hit. So it's going to be, 40 million plus 27. This is why void years are very scary, and it's, a tricky situation for the most part when using void years, Because, I mean, first off, either the player might not be on your team at that time and you still have to pay him, and he's still a salary cap hit and dead money, or if you do have him on your team, you're going to have to pay him anyway. You can't get away from void years. Void years are guaranteed money. No matter what you do to try to work around them, you can't. You can't push void years away. It's not possible. So, for example, with Jalen Hurts' new contract, right? This is exactly how they did it. So, for example, we have a total of, I think it's 7 void years. So, again, these are all the way to he's 37 years old. But in 2029, they owe him $97.5 million. And no, that's not over a period of time. That is the second the league year starts in 2029. They are writing a check for Jalen Hurts for that money. And he's 31, so he probably gets a new contract in 2028, right? Because he's obviously, older, but he's not that older. So he gets a new contract in 2028. That $97 million is against his salary cap in 2029. So whatever his salary cap is in 2029, according to that contract, it is whatever it is plus $97 million. You see the problem with void years, right? This is why I don't really like void years. But again, if you right now think you can win a Super Bowl, right now structure a team that gets you a Super Bowl, you think, okay, well, in 7 years from now, yeah, this is going to really bite us in the butt. But that's 7 years from now. We could go out there and win 5-6 Super Bowls in 7 years. So, while yes, in the future it might really nail us to the wall, right now it's not. And right now we have the team, and in 7 years, we're not going to have this guy, right? We're not going to have all these guys. So we understand in 7 years, we might have to rebuild. We might have to get rid of people. But do we want to get rid of them now or in 7 years after we completed these Super Bowls? Did these things, right? And that's what teams really have to break down and figure out, is how do you want to structure it? And again, you also got to figure out if the player is worth it. Now, obviously, Joe Burrow is worth it, let's be honest. But, there are some players, for example, Geno Smith. For example, the Seahawks had to do this with Geno Smith when they gave him a new contract. Because you have to. You have to figure out how you want to structure it and if the player is worth it. Because, again, not every single player is going to be worth this money. Taysom Hill, for example, he got this exact same contract when he got his new contract. I'm not going to bring up his contract real fast. Is that when he got his new contract, he actually got, I believe it was, actually, wait. Yeah. So here's his new contract. He got a 4-year contract for $40 million extension. The contract is $21.5 million guaranteed. But they put $5.3 million against in a void year. And the reason why they did this was because they didn't want that to impact their salary cap. Now, you might say, well, 5.3 doesn't sound like that much. It's only a $56 million contract. So that's at least, 1/12 of the contract? And they put that toward a avoidable year. So the reason why they did that, and they actually put 2 voidable years on there, they also put, they split up his bonus. And the reason why they did that is because they wanted to take away around $1 million per year from his contract salary cap hit. And again, teams do this all the time. It saves you in the long run. It saves you in the short term. It just really bones you in the long term. But again, if you think you have a Super Bowl roster and you want to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, etc., this is what you do. And again, it's one of those situations. Right now, look at the Saints. The Saints have no salary cap because they were doing this for so long. The same thing with the Rams. They have no salary cap because they were doing this for so long. And again, it is something like now, in the future, you look at a team and go, oh my gosh, what happened to them? They were doing this a lot. And it worked out in the short term. So, again, and if you don't win a Super Bowl doing it, then I feel bad for you. The Rams did it, and they beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl. So, that's really how they did it, and they ended up working out for them. But I'll see you guys in the next one, though.